Amaransi earlier on the video wall saying, alluding to that FT article front page, that there's a big one-way bet against the euro by all the hedge funds and traders out there, up to the magnitude of $8 billion.
Yeah, it's always, there's an old adage, when it hits the front pages, you probably should go the other way. And today was a classic case in point. We're walking in last night, euro dollar touching close on 136. By the time I left the office, I think 137.50 the other way. It's almost like showing your hand around a card table. Everyone knows everyone's short, so let's run the other way. But certainly, but maybe a little bit of respite too. I mean, this euro dollar's had dollar's been so strong for 4 or 5 days. I think it's the 5th day in a row, and then it finally decided to turn. So maybe a bit of welcome relief too.
I bet you haven't kept your eyes off the news flow around the Eurozone today, because that is dictating trends in the market left, right and centre, directly impacting that euro dollar.
Completely. I mean, I was speaking to a client today talking about, how does what's happening in Greece affect my position in Goldfield shares, for example. But ironically, it does greatly. I mean, all to do with the dollar, all to do with that dollar. With this dollar so strong, the gold price getting hit, commodities getting hit, resource-heavy JSE obviously suffering, having a big pullback as well. So ironically, it really affects sectors like us more than we actually think.
Because of course, if you look at the gold stocks, they're a big leverage play on rand weakness and a higher gold price.
Absolutely. And last thing we need with, we've got the State of Nation address coming up this week as well, looking for some growth within our own economy, and very difficult to try and encourage growth with a rand so stubbornly strong.
Are you expecting an implosion in the Eurozone, the likes of Spain? Are we going to see a sovereign default? It's all over the place at the moment.
Look, I'm not an economist, but I don't know what the odds must be of. But they're really, they're certainly within the sort of insuring against default debt within the Eurozone, Greece, Spain, the likes. They are betting in some sort of very close to a default, if anything, certainly insuring against it. But then you saw today, as soon as the sort of that strength of that dollar dissipated, bond yields in Greece, bond yields in Portugal, they all came in 15, 20 basis points. Equity markets started to rally. So it's certainly like walking on eggshells at the moment. It's tough out there.
The local market, and coming back to that man who asked you about Goldfields, I presume it was a gentleman, it could have been a lady, about Goldfields and what we should be doing with local stocks given the news flow on the international front. Are you shorting the market? What is the scenario?
We were short the market a couple of weeks ago when we had the likes of Anglos sitting at 340, 350, and Impala Platinum up at 230, 240. It became far too expensive. Funny enough, I'm feeling quite confident on some of the resources. Listening to one of your slots earlier with regards to copper, I would certainly stay away from copper counters. But the resources, it's
the precious metals now you're talking about.
It's such a rand dollar play without going too much on about it. That we need within South Africa, we've got to have this dollar weaken, and any sort of weakness, our resources are going to bounce. You saw it today. Anglo American.
But then you must be believing that the dollar is going to weaken.
I think there is going to weaken. I think it's also going to. So I'm not an economist, but it just feels like it's overdone. And I think there's going to be sector rotation. The likes of ShopRite's hitting 52-week highs. I'm sure we'll touch on Spar Group in a minute. There's a lot of defensive play. It's worked for a month or two. Now it's the other way, and I think we'll actually see some rotation. I think you'll see the likes of ShopRite, for example, pulling back the Spar Groups, the Aspens, the Adcock Ingrams, SA Breweries even taking a bit of a breather as people flip back into resources as this dollar starts to weaken. But saying that's not a given. At the moment, we could turn on the news tomorrow morning and all of a sudden the euro's under pressure and more talks on Greece. So it's a tough one.
While we're on resources, Bradley George, Head of Resources and Commodities, Investec Asset Management in London, had this to say about mining costs and valuations on the mining stocks in South Africa.
If you look at mining costs in South Africa, it is a challenging environment, deep level mining in this country, and so keeping that cost control is imperative. Where we're looking at labour cost increases, we're looking at energy cost increases. All of that is adding to further cost inflation. Anglo Platinum have done a good job keeping nominal costs flat, and we see that being the case for the following year. Also, Goldfields and Harmony also out with their results showed good cost discipline. So these miners are working extremely hard to keep costs under control, and a large part of that is, as you've seen from Anglo Platinum's results, is taking large amounts of numbers out of their workforce. Over 15,000 miners taken out of their operations. So a real challenge for this environment to keep those costs under control, and if that is the case, then you know, they do have good operating leverage to a rising rand platinum price or a rising rand gold price, but they have to certainly work extremely hard to keep these costs under control.
There seems to be consensus on the copper front that we're going to see the copper price coming under pressure. But translate your resources view into stocks. Are you net positive on the likes of Anglo Platinum and Impala Platinum?
I think Anglo Platinum we would stay away from. I think the rights issue was heavily discounted for a reason. I think you saw a bit of the picking up the newspapers last night, thinking about it after that big run, and as you pointed out earlier,
6.5% up yesterday.
But it's such a buy the rumour, sell the news. You know, we all knew about it, but it's certainly lagged the likes from Impala Platinum. I think we'd be very careful on some of these plat prices, and then the rand with it being where it is also difficult. I think some of the more diversified miners, I think, you know, the likes of African Rainbow, I saw Judy talking about it as well. Some of these gold miners like Gold Fields, a few of the more diversified, even, you know, maybe not Kumba up above 300, but certainly at lower levels is a nice play.